Welcome, and thank you for joining. My name is Trixie Thibodeau, health educator for Atlantic Health System, Community Health. Our webinar, Dietary Recommendations to Assist in Reducing Breast Cancer Risk, and being presented by Bridget Lacey. Before we begin, I have a few announcements. This webinar is being recorded. All participants are muted. If you have a question, please use the Q&A for questions or chat for comments. We will try to get through all the questions at the end of the presentation. At Atlantic Health, we've combined expert care with comfort and convenience to offer a thoughtful mammogram experience that prioritizes your health and well-being. With the advanced breast imaging technology, we ensure greater accuracy and comfort. Plus, we make booking stress-free with easy online scheduling and flexible appointment times at more locations near you. Because this isn't just a mammogram, it's a mammogram with more peace of mind. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Bridget. Thank you so much, Bridget, for your expertise and time today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Lacey. I am a registered dietitian, and I work in the outpatient setting at the Carol G. Simon Cancer Center at Morristown Medical Center. I'm very excited to be joining you all today during Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October to discuss dietary recommendations to assist in reducing breast cancer risk. So just an overview of what we'll be discussing today. We'll be beginning with risk factors for breast cancer. We'll be discussing guidelines from professional organizations regarding cancer prevention, dietary recommendations, including suggestions to assist with weight management, physical activity recommendations, and as Beatrice mentioned, we'll save time at the end for any questions. So just to start off with, I wanted to discuss risk factors for breast cancer, which can be classified as modifiable and non-modifiable. So I'm not going to go into detail about all of them, but I have highlighted here the nutrition-related factors that we'll be addressing today. So some non-modifiable factors, just for some examples, an individual sex, so if you're born female, you have a higher risk for breast cancer risk. Age, risks tends to increase with age. If you have a family history or inherited genes, like the BRCA gene, for example. There's other non-modifiable factors that you can see here as well. And then there are modifiable factors in helping to reduce risk for breast cancer. So I have highlighted at the top 3 of the main factors that we'll be discussing, including alcohol consumption. So alcohol intake is associated with an increased risk for breast cancer. It appears that the risk increase with the amount of alcohol that is consumed. Weight is another factor. So having a body mass index that is considered to be overweight or obese can increase the risk for breast cancer, along with having, more of a sedentary lifestyle, so decreased physical activity. So we'll be discussing these and some other dietary components as modifiable factors in assisting to reduce risk. So I have here a blueprint, which is from the American Institute for Cancer Research. This is a professional organization that we refer to often for guidelines in helping to reduce cancer risk or risk for reoccurrence. So I'm going to go through a few of their recommendations, and we'll get into detail further along in the presentation for these. So at the top, it's trying to reach and maintain a healthy weight. Sorry, if we don't mind just going back to the previous slide, thanks. Um, being physically active. So having activity as part of your daily routine is important. We'll be chatting much more about that. Consuming a diet that is high in plant-based foods. So this would be considered our produce, our fruits and vegetables, in addition to whole grains, beans, lentils. Trying to limit consumption of red meat, ideally no more than around 18 ounces a week, and trying to more so avoid processed meats. Trying to limit highly sugar sweetened beverages, aiming to obtain fluid intakes through water or mainly unsweetened fluids. Limiting consumption of fast foods or more so highly ultra processed foods, which are higher in saturated fats and added sugars. These foods in excess tend to contribute to weight gain. As I mentioned on the previous slide, trying to limit alcohol consumption. They have noted here for cancer prevention, it's best to not drink alcohol. And other nutrition related factors on here is trying to not use supplements specifically for cancer prevention. So a food first approach is what we would encourage, trying to obtain a good variety of vitamins and nutrients through food, and more so relying on supplements if they are prescribed due to a deficiency or to any type of medical condition that might be affecting absorption, for example. So this is a visual from the American Cancer Society, which is another professional organization that we refer to for guidelines established in helping to reduce cancer risk. So they're noting here that reaching and trying to maintain a healthy weight, being physically active, trying to follow an overall healthy diet, and limiting alcohol intake can reduce the risk of development of many cancers, including breast cancer. So, it's an interesting fact that they have on the first line here that excess body weight, poor diet, not being physically active, and consuming alcohol in excess can contribute to about 1 in 5 cancers. And, having a weight that's considered overweight or obese can also increase risk for many cancers. They have about 13 total with research supporting that right now. So the American Cancer Society, similarly to the American Institute for Cancer Research, has established guidelines in effort to reduce cancer risk. In regards to diet, trying to eat more produce and, their words, not mine, less junk. In regards to produce, trying to obtain a good variety of color. We'll be discussing more about this, including items that are high in fiber, like beans, and different whole grains can also help to increase fiber intake and provide other vitamins as well. On the other hand, trying to more so limit red and processed meats. Red meat would be considered beef and pork and lamb. Processed meats are anything that's prepared when it says smoked or cured or salted. So for example, that would be like our breakfast meats, bacon or sausage, or our cold cuts from the deli, hot dogs, for example. Trying to limit sugar sweetened beverages and, highly ultra processed foods, which I would put more so in like our fast food category. And then I know we're just beginning the presentation here, but probably the third or fourth time that it's been mentioned is the alcohol that all of these organizations are recommending to limit. They have mentioned here it's best to not drink alcohol if you choose to have an alcoholic beverage. Moderation is considered 1 drink a day for women, 2 drinks a day for men. And interestingly enough, there has been studies that have shown that individuals who have followed these guidelines have had reduced risk for breast cancer. And one last guideline from professional organization. This is the American Cancer Society guidelines for diet and physical activity for cancer prevention. This is specific to breast cancer. So it's, reiterating again that reaching and maintaining a healthy weight can assist in reducing breast cancer risk. Physical activity, especially more so moderate or vigorous activity, can lower the risk for postmenopausal breast cancer and potentially premenopausal breast cancer. Following a diet that is high in plant-based foods and lower in animal protein sources may also assist in reducing breast cancer risk. And then also on that side was the alcohol mentioned once again. So dietary suggestions. A plant-based diet is recommended to decrease cancer risk and or risk for reoccurrence. It can promote overall health. It can help to decrease risk of other comorbidities. And it can also help you to reach and maintain a healthy body weight. So plant-based does not have to mean vegan. It does not have to mean vegetarian, unless, of course, you want that to be your dietary preference. Plant-based is more so a diet that is high in fruits and vegetables, high in whole grains, beans and legumes, and still having the option of including animal sources of protein as a component of your meals if you choose, ideally more so our leaner proteins like fish or poultry, for example. So when it comes to designing meals, trying for a combination of food groups with your meals is a good way to ensure that you're getting a different variety of nutrients. So if we're thinking food group wise, produce, lots of fruits and vegetables, complex carbohydrates, which are carbohydrates that have more whole grains, more fiber to them, lean protein sources, and healthy fats. So trying to have that balance, ideally, for each meal throughout the day, to also, not only obtain varieties of nutrients, but to maintain enough energy and fuel for your body. The American Cancer Society guidelines for cancer prevention recommend aiming for at least 5 servings total of fruits and vegetables throughout the day. So that would be at least 2 to 3 servings of each of them. Additionally, trying to choose foods that are higher in fiber. So, if it's different varieties of whole grains, different types of grains like quinoa or farro. I have more information coming regarding this. They also suggest choosing lean protein sources. I had mentioned trying to more so limit red meats, avoiding processed meats, and decreasing fat intake, in particular saturated fat, which is the type of fat that is not so good for our heart health. So a tool to help with designing meals, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this, the plate method. My plate is a visual that has been established by the USDA. It's an updated version of the food pyramid, which thank goodness is a bit easier to interpret. And what the suggestion here is, ideally for each meal throughout the day, for half of your plate or half of your bowl to be composed of produce or fruits or vegetables, for about a quarter portion or so of the plate to be your carbohydrate, and then the remaining quarter of the plate to be your protein. So having this balance at meals is what we would try to suggest. So what's shown here is a very similar version of the My Plate. This is called the New American Plate, and this has been established from the American Institute for Cancer Research, also as a guideline to help with designing meals with a good balance of food groups. It helps with portion control and also according to your preference. So what they're suggesting here is for 2/3 or more of your plate to be these plant-based foods, which are fruits or vegetables. Also the whole grains are included in this category as well. And then for about 1/3 of your plate to be your protein. So this is, almost the same thing as the my plate. Another way to look at it is still like half of the plate as produce, a quarter of it as the carbohydrate, and the remaining as the protein. So I like to show both of those initially just as that visual guide for helping to design meals. So moving on specifically more so to each of these food groups. So starting with fruits and vegetables, I'm sure it is no surprise that, having a diet high in fruits and vegetables is important for many reasons, including to help to reduce cancer risk. Having a wide variety of colorful produce is what I try to suggest in order for more of a synergistic effect, so to say, to be produced, meaning that you're getting different vitamins based upon, the produce that you're having, and the different colors is where the vitamins usually lie. I use the phrase often of eat the rainbow. So phytonutrients are, they give our plant foods their flavor, their color, their fiber, and having a good supply and variety of phytonutrients can be sure that you're getting different varieties of vitamins. Phytonutrients can help prevent cancer through a variety of mechanisms, including helping to prevent damage to our cells' DNA. So a way to help to get a different variety of produce into your diet is eating in season. Eating in season refers to purchasing and consuming foods when they are at peak harvest. There's many benefits to eating in season. I added this in here more so to help with getting variety in regards to different colors of produce. However, there's a higher composition, of vitamins and minerals compared to items that are packed and shipped before they are ripe. It's more cost efficient usually to be eating in season produce. It could help to support local farmers, and then just environmentally, it can minimize pollution from shipping. I want to note that there is no harm in eating things that are out of season. You're still getting vitamins and nutrients, you're still getting fiber, but by having things in season, it might help you to, maybe try new recipes, or, getting some different vitamins right now that you might not be getting in the summer. I have this visual guide here. This is from the USDA of all of our produce that's considered to be in season right now in the fall. I'm sure most of these, we know our traditional fall produce, our apples, our pumpkin, our winter squashes. There are some things that actually surprised me that are still in season, like the pineapples, kiwis, but sometimes the seasons might overlap too. So carotenoids are a phytonutrient that are found in fruits and vegetables. They are naturally occurring yellow, green, and orange pigments. I have over here just the visual of different types of carotenoids. I'm sure probably the most common that we have heard of is beta carotene and lycopene. These are all high in antioxidants, and the reason I'm bringing the carotenoids up is research shows that carotenoids may assist in reducing breast cancer risk. It's recommended to try to aim for at least 3 of these produce servings a week to help to obtain that benefit. I do like to note, though, that the research that has been done in the realm of helping to reduce breast cancer risk has been specifically for food. It's not for supplements. So moving on to our next food group are carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are a macronutrient. They are composed of starch and fiber and sugar. On a food label, we usually see at the top total carbohydrates, and that's what that means, that combination of the starch, fiber, and sugar. Carbohydrates often get a bad reputation. I know, low carbohydrate diets are incredibly popular, especially, if the goal is weight loss. However, carbohydrates, are our body's main source of fuel. So having a little bit of carbohydrate with your meals is definitely not a bad thing. What we want to look at in regards to carbohydrates is the portion that you're having of it. So just referring back to that plate visual, ideally it's like a quarter or so portion on your plate with meals, and also the type of carbohydrate that you're having. So there are two types of carbohydrates. There are our complex carbohydrates and there are simple carbohydrates. The chemical structure of food and how quickly the food is digested helps to determine if it is a simple or a complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrates are digested slower. They have more of the whole grain still intact. There's nothing stripped from it in the processing component. They are digested slower. They help to keep our bodies fuller for longer. And they also help to keep our blood sugar more stable too, compared to the simple carbohydrate alternatives. So one of the major roles of carbohydrates and the benefits that it provides in our diet is fiber. There are many benefits to fiber. I'm sure we've all heard of a high fiber diet. Fiber can aid in digestion. It helps to promote bowel regularity. As I mentioned before, just in regards to the complex carbohydrates, fiber in particular helps to regulate our blood sugar. It can help in lowering our LDL cholesterol, which is the type of cholesterol that we want to be on the lower side. Having enough fiber in your diet can support weight management. A high fiber diet can specifically help to reduce risk for colorectal cancer. And I have highlighted here a study from the Journal of the American Cancer Society that is showing the benefits of a high fiber diet in helping to reduce breast cancer risk. And there has been other studies that have supported this as well. One study in particular showed that it was conducted on women who consumed at least 25 grams of fiber a day, that they had a decreased risk for breast cancer. So how much fiber should you be eating? The American Institute for Cancer Research suggests aiming for at least 30 grams of fiber a day. This is a little bit above the average, which is 25 grams of fiber that's recommended a day for women. For men, it's a little bit higher than that. The general recommendation is 38 grams of fiber. Some tips just to add more fiber to your diet. If you are grocery shopping, trying to look for breads or cereals or grains that are more of our whole grain varieties, comparing food labels to see which brands also have more fiber in it could be a good step. Enjoying different grains with your meals. So barley, farro, quinoa, for example. Beans are loaded with fiber. They're also a good protein. So adding beans to casseroles or soups, sometimes if you're making like any type of ground meat or ground chicken, you can always adjust the recipe and add some beans in with it as well. Trying to opt for fresh fruits and fresh vegetables as opposed to juicing. This will lead to the next point on here, but the skin in our fruits and vegetables contains a lot of fiber, and most of the time when we're juicing, we're stripping away a lot of that fiber. So eating the actual produce itself. This is just some examples of produce that are high in fiber. So artichokes are high on that list. One medium artichoke is 6 grams of fiber. I mentioned, beans. All beans are good sources of fiber. This one in particular, the navy beans, has 9 grams of fiber for a half cup serving. A cup of cooked broccoli has about 5 grams of fiber. Raspberries are very high in fiber. 1 cup is 8 grams. Blackberries have about 7.5 grams for 1 cup. And a medium-sized pear has 6.5 grams. So all great sources of fiber to add into the daily mix. Um, and this is just an example of what meals might look like in a typical day to try to reach that at least 30 grams of fiber mark. So, for example, for breakfast, having a cup of a bran cereal and adding raspberries to it. For lunch, having a whole grain sandwich with some tuna and a cup of roasted broccoli on the side. For dinner, maybe it's a homemade bowl that consists of a little bit of brown rice, some beans, Brussels sprouts, and some chicken. And then as a snack at some point in the day, an apple with a little bit of peanut butter. And that brings you to around 33 grams of fiber a day. So hitting that fiber mark. So moving on to our next food group, our protein. So if you like to incorporate animal sources of protein into your diet, what we would try to encourage is opting for leaner sources of protein. So leaner sources are lower in saturated fat. This would include our poultry, this would be fish, and eggs would be in that category as well. Trying to limit red meat. Red meat in that umbrella would be pork and lamb and beef. The recommendation is less than 18 ounces a week. And just further research in the realm of helping to reduce breast cancer risk, there has been some research that showed that individuals who consumed more than 3 servings a week of red meat did have a little bit of higher risk of acquiring a certain type of breast cancer. And then lastly, in regards to meats, is trying to avoid processed meats. More research recently has linked a higher intake of processed meats to an increased risk of, I know it's not breast specific, but for colorectal cancer. Processed meats, I had mentioned this before, would be like our ham, bacon, hot dogs, sausage, salami, pastrami, just for some examples. On the previous slide too, trying to incorporate plant-based proteins is definitely a good thing. Examples of this could include nuts, seeds, lentils, beans, edamame, tofu. I'll be talking about soy in a couple of slides here. And, in regards to cooking, so trying to avoid cooking meats specifically at high temperatures or over open flames. And, we'll use the grilling, for example. Alternatively, trying to bake or steam, which would be, eliminating the open flame aspect. The reasoning behind that is, cooking over open flames, and in particular, cooking meat or fish over open flames, can produce potential carcinogens. So the slide that's appearing here are some suggestions. I know we're kind of transitioning out of grilling season right now, but some just suggestions for safer grilling if you're someone who likes to grill year round, or for when the spring rolls around again. So marinating your meat or fish first could be a good step. Studies have shown that marinating meat before grilling it can decrease the risk of forming these potential carcinogens. Pre-cooking the meat before you put it on the grill would lessen the amount of time that it has to be on the grill, which could, potentially help to decrease the risk, the time that it's exposed to the open flames. Going lean, so trimming fat off of any meat. This can help to reduce any possible charring on the grill or any flare-ups because of the fat. Mixing it up with vegetables, so maybe cutting the meat into smaller portions, adding vegetables on there. It would, decrease the time that it needs to cook. And go green. So grilling fruits and vegetables does not produce this potential carcinogen formation risk. It's only applied to our animal proteins. So also in the realm of protein, I wanted to talk a little bit about dairy. So the World Cancer Research Fund, another organization that we refer to, they examine how diet, weight, activity can affect an individual's risk of developing cancer. They analyzed different studies and different research available. And what's been concluded is that consuming dairy might decrease the risk of premenopausal breast cancer, and a diet high in calcium might decrease the risk of premenopausal breast cancer. The American Institute for Cancer Research has also, supported research stating that that intake of dairy does not appear to increase the risk of breast cancer. And in fact, having a diet particularly higher in calcium might help to decrease the risk. What we would suggest is trying to work towards more of a lower fat dairy product. So like a fat-free or a low fat, whether it's milk or yogurt. And something just to note is, I know with other products, when we see the labels like fat-free or low fat, it's usually something else is added to it to still help it to taste okay. In regards to dairy, they're really just stripping out the fat. So it's, nothing else should be added to it to make up for the taste, which probably why whole milk tastes a bit different than like a skim or low fat milk. Soy, so also in the umbrella of protein. So I know I often get a lot of questions in regards to soy and breast cancer. So soy is similar in structure to estrogen, but soy is what's called a phytoestrogen or a plant estrogen, and it is not the same as human estrogen. Soy foods do not contain human estrogen. So studies more recently have shown that whole food sources of soy actually do not increase breast cancer risk and may have a protective benefit in helping to reduce risk. Research on soy focuses on whole food sources of soy. So for example, tofu, edamame, or soy milk. The research is not on soy supplements. So if you enjoy having tofu, or if you enjoy snacking on like a dried edamame, that is fine to do. It is a good protein source. And research seems to be more promising from recent studies in actually potentially helping to reduce breast cancer risk. And I've added omega-3s under the protein umbrella. I know it's also a fat. So intake of omega-3 fatty acids from fish has been associated with a decreased risk for breast cancer as well. Therefore, if you like fish, trying to aim for 1 to 2, I would try to push more towards 2 servings a week at least of fishes that are high in omega-3s, which is what DHA and EPA is referring to here. So I have this list, if it's helpful, just to take a peek at of fishes that are higher in the omega-3s. I know salmon is probably our most common one that we think of. Mackerel is on the list. Even canned tuna has a little bit of omega-3 to it as well. And so our last food group would be dietary fat. So a diet high in fat, in particular, the saturated fat, has been associated with an increased breast cancer incidence. Looking at that, it could also be more so related to food choices, which are probably likely lower in plant-based foods if it's more of a higher saturated fat-based meals. It's recommended to follow a diet high in plant-based foods and limit our saturated fats. Just some examples of where saturated fats might lie in our food. Some cuts of beef, the skin of poultry, cream, butter, the whole fat dairy products, and palm and coconut oil are also higher in saturated fats. So it's been suggested to limit our fat intake to 15 to 20% of our total caloric intake for the day. So for example, just what that means, let's say you're consuming about 1,500 calories a day. What that would equate to is about probably like 25 grams of fat or so. throughout the day, just as an example. So, when we're choosing our fat sources, trying to opt for items that have more unsaturated fats, which is the kind of fats that are more heart healthy. Examples of where this may lie: avocado, nuts and seeds, olive oil, and those fatty fishes. Also added to this category are flax seeds. Flax seeds contain unsaturated fats, particularly high in what's called polyunsaturated fats. And there has actually been, research supporting in regular intake of flax seeds in the diet and benefits in helping to reduce breast cancer risk. If you like flaxseed, it would definitely be a good thing to incorporate maybe in oatmeal or in like a yogurt and fruit parfait or in a smoothie. About a half a teaspoon of flaxseed a day may be associated with a decreased risk of breast cancer development. So I had mentioned a couple of times of, also the importance of weight management in helping to reduce breast cancer risk. So weight management it's important for many reasons. It can also help to reduce risk for diabetes, heart disease, and many other potential ailments. I understand though that this is a large topic that, I could go on and have many, many different presentations of suggestions to help with weight management. And, everyone's individual approach to this might be different. Learning and implementing dietary and lifestyle changes can make weight loss attainable in the long run. So if you're looking to lose weight, we want to look for attainable and long-lasting strategies as opposed to kind of anything that sounds or appears to be extreme. So some suggestions just to assist in supporting weight management. Aiming to eat regularly throughout the day. So, this may correlate to eating at the same times each day if your body naturally feels hungry at those times. What I really try to encourage is tuning into our hunger and satiety cues throughout the day, as best as your schedule can allow. So, when you start to feel that initial hunger feeling of having something at that point, whether it is a meal or a healthy snack, for any of us, if we are hungry and ignore that feeling and a couple of hours roll by and the time you sit down for your next meal, we're probably starving. And when that happens, it's so much more challenging to stick to kind of that good distribution of food groups, the my plate visual, because we're really hungry and our bodies need a quick form of fuel. So acknowledging that hunger feeling throughout the day is definitely a good thing. Similarly, when you're eating, trying to tune in to how you're feeling from a satiety standpoint. So this, it sounds silly, I know, but trying to take your time when you're eating and noticing when you start to feel comfortable with meals. It could be being like, okay, I feel like I've had enough right now, or maybe you finish your meal and you're waiting for that satiety feeling and it's not there yet. It could be going back for a little bit more, maybe more of the vegetables, a little bit more of the protein. We don't want you to feel hungry when you're done a meal. And we also don't want you to feel uncomfortable and incredibly stuffed when you're done a meal. So keeping that, how am I feeling from this fullness standpoint in mind, even if it's just for one meal a day, to kind of, seeing if you're tuned into those cues. Oh, I'm sorry, if we could stay on that slide for a moment. So I know one, popular item out there right now is intermittent fasting. There has been mixed research in different areas regarding this. Specifically for breast cancer risk, there has been some research that has shown that nighttime fasting for 13 hours can be beneficial to promote blood sugar control and decrease breast cancer risk. The reasoning behind this, is a little bit unclear. But if, one thing that comes to mind is, for example, if you have dinner at 6 o'clock and you're not eating breakfast until 7 o'clock the next morning, it more so eliminates the nighttime snacking that may exist. And, commonly we'll find that nighttime snacking may not necessarily be due to hunger, but it may be more so related to, relaxing at the end of the day, or, watching a TV show and gravitating towards maybe a salty snack or a sweet treat. So that's one potential factor that I'm thinking might go into this, and, in turn can also help to promote weight management. So just other suggestions, trying to follow a diet high in plant-based foods, using that plate planner to assist with portions, and incorporating regular intervals of activity into your day, which we're going to get to next. So back to some of the guidelines from the American Cancer Society. So being physically active is important. It can many benefits, and weight management is one of them. So what they're suggesting is for adults to aim for 150 to 300 minutes of moderate to intense activity a week, or at least 75 minutes of vigorous or more intense activity, just based upon your own activity level and preference, or a combination of these two. Children and teens, ideally aiming for 1 hour activity a day. So incorporating activity and also trying to limit the amount of time that you're sitting during the day, which I know is one of the top challenges, especially since many of us have jobs where we are sitting at our desks. Trying to move around throughout the day, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, is a good thing. I know, especially since COVID, there has been more advancements in regards to standing desks, the walking pads to put under your desk, the bike pedals, which are all just options of helping to more so limit sedentary behavior. And I have just some examples here of what's considered moderate intensity activity and vigorous intensity activity. I'll just kind of go through a couple of them. Moderate activity like walking, dancing, leisure biking. At home, this could be mowing the lawn or yard work, more so vigorous activity, jogging or running, something where we're getting our heart rate up, fast cycling, circuit training. If you're, playing sports, if it's more so things where you're, again, getting the heart rate up, soccer, basketball. So just some different ideas, if it's helpful. So in conclusion, there are multiple modifiable lifestyle factors that can be incorporated in effort to reduce an individual's risk for breast cancer. I'm mentioning again, trying to reach and maintain a healthy weight, following a diet high in plant-based foods, which can help to reach, and maintain a healthy weight, incorporating regular intervals of physical activity into your day, into your week, and, once again, trying to more so limit or avoid alcohol. So, if any of these factors apply to you, or if there are certain lifestyle or dietary changes that you're looking to make, what I always try to suggest first is setting small goals. It's hard to change everything at once, but, even in the realm of one nutrition related goal, one activity related goal, start small and, try not to move on to the next step until you feel like you're kind of checking the mark next to that one goal. And also writing things down might be helpful in regards to goal setting, if it's on your phone, if it's in a notebook, also just, helping more so with mindfulness.
We appreciate you joining us today. We kindly ask that you take a few minutes after today's webinar to complete the program survey. The link to the survey has also been added to the chat for your convenience. A special thank you to our presenter today for dedicating your time and expertise. If you have additional questions or comments, please send us an email to communityhealth@atlantichealth.org or give us a call at 1-844 472-8499, option 3. This concludes our webinar. Thank you, everyone.